Welcome back, guys. It's been a few days, been dealing with some health stuffs, but we're back at it, and here we go. Jack London once wrote, "The oligarchy will be the iron heel. It will walk upon the faces of the people. It will not be a reign of law. It will be a reign of power." Most people remember Jack London for what? The Call of the Wild, dogs, sleds, and the Yukon. But in 1908, he dropped a warning shot across the bow of the 20th century. He didn't write historical fiction. He wrote a blueprint. A story where wealth doesn't just buy luxury, it buys the laws, and the schools, and the press, and eventually reality itself. And what does that sound like? A little bit like AI? Yep. So tonight we're not just cracking open an old novel, we're holding up a mirror and we're discussing the iron heel to see if that boot is already pressing down. This is Breaking the System, episode 61, The Iron Heel, the blueprint of the oligarchy. I'm your host, and welcome.
The curtains rise, the lights burn bright. You're blinded now, can't see the fight. Smoke and mirrors, they lead the way. Fooling hearts night after day. Welcome to the show, it's all pretend. The smiles, the lies, the perfect end.
Alright, so to grasp the system, you have to understand the world that terrified Jack London at the time. It was called the Gilded Age. This was an age of the trusts. We're talking about, this is where big money started to come into play. Standard Oil, U.S. Steel, Drippy, stop it, dogs. So U.S. Steel, the railroad barons, these weren't just businesses, they were private empires exercising government-like power. And London watched the middle class, small farmers, independent shop owners, professionals, getting crushed between the rising corporate monopolies and a growing industrial... Get over here. Get over here. Come on. Crazy dogs. All right. So, but that kind of sounds more like today, right? I mean, look at what happened during COVID. What did they do? They shut down independent shop owners. They're looking at shutting down the micro professionals. And who was left open? The big box stores, right? Okay. And that's, so like those little independent shop owners, they're getting crushed between the rising monopolies because Walmart was able to stay open, but your little mom and pop shops weren't, right? So it's kind of like history repeating itself. And so he predicted the trusts would swallow the independents whole, leaving basically two classes, the oligarchy at the top and the masses below. Sound familiar? And today we talk about the big tech five, media consolidation, and too big to fail banks. London called it the iron heel. We call it synergies. Efficiently, the market forces, right? What kind of place or what kind of forces are at play on the market? And in the novel, narrated mostly through Avis Everhard, we see the slow motion capture of society. The manuscript is discovered century later with footnotes from a future scholar showing that the iron heel eventually fell, but only after centuries of tyranny. And so the oligarchy doesn't rule with brute force alone, though they have mercenaries and armies when needed. The real power is what? Is the structure, right? Think about how much structure we have in modern society. Like there's a structure for everything. And so that keeps you in check, right? London shows professors blacklisted or fired for teaching ideas that threaten the ruling class's divine right of capital. So like you can't teach free thinking. You got to teach what they want you to teach, right? Education shifts from truth-seeking to producing compliant managers and obedient workers. This is exactly what public education was originally funded on, right? They didn't want truth-seeking, question-bringing individuals. What did they want? Well, they wanted someone that could work a typical 9 to 5, right? Show up, do the work, go home, don't complain, and repeat that process over and over and over and be obedient, okay? So the modern parallel, look at major university boards, massive endowments from tech and finance billionaires, and the quiet chilling effect on descending research or speech. Is the goal critical thinking or creating a workforce that knows the appropriate questions and the appropriate answers? Right? Remember, we talked about this before. In education, are they giving you a critical thinking question, or are they giving you a multiple choice where all the options are already given to you? And even though there's a wrong and a right option, you don't get to pick what those options are, right? Is it A, B, C, or D? And you didn't put any of those on the table, okay? That's what we're talking about here. Next, let's look at the press. Newspapers became mouthpieces of the masters. Truth is filtered, stories are killed, narratives are shaped. Here's our modern parallel. A handful of corporations and billionaires control the vast majority of what most Americans read, watch, or scroll through. And when outlets across the supposed political spectrum push similar framing on key economic or regulatory issues, ask yourself, is it free press or is it a managed narrative? And it really does make you wonder. Now let's look at the labor aristocracy/division. The oligarchy creates a privileged layer of skilled workers, engineers, and overseers. Better pay, better perks, and a better status. They turn potential allies into enforcers against the broader working class, divide and rule, and industrialized. We talked a little bit about this in the Orson Orwell book, Animal Farm, where the pigs, right? They were the overseers. They were the engineers. And everybody else was just the working class, right? And so this isn't conspiracy, it's mechanics. A small ruling group can't maintain power without buffers and internal division among the ruled. We're so divided on so many different topics, whether if it's politics or religion or skin color or what it is, but we're so divided that there's no way that we'll ever come together on any particular topic to dethrone those at the top. And so divide and conquer isn't ancient history. It's a feature. It's a feature within a system. It's not a bug. Okay? And so let's get specific. In the Iron Heel, there's a seamless revolving door between corporate power and state power. Boards, regulators, politicians, all within the same circle. What about today? Executives from let's say pharma, finance, big tech, and defense move into high government posts regulating or regulating their former industries. Bills thousands of pages long, often drafted by these so-called lobbyists, right? Regulators' capture isn't a glitch, it's the operating system. This is all built by design, right? The middle class continues to be hollowed out, if you can say that there's a middle class now. Independent institutions weaken daily and yearly. Consolidation accelerates all the time. And the language of democracy and freedom remains, but the substance erodes. We talked about this. What's the definition? What's the definition of democracy and the definition of freedom? What our forefathers in 1776 thought as freedom and what we think of freedom today, two different definitions, two different worlds, right? Who is more freer, us or them? It's a good question to think about, okay? So London's oligarchy justified itself as the guardian of the civilization. Today's version talks about innovation and stakeholder capitalism and protecting democracy. Well, that's a good one. Gotta protect democracy. Even though we're a constitutional republic, right? We gotta protect that democracy, both from the left and from the right, right? Two wings, same bird. And they do this all while building private empires that dwarf many nations. I mean, look at Elon Musk. He holds more wealth than some nations by far, right? And that's just one man. And we could go on and on and on of all these billionaires, right, that have all this money in these private empires that are bigger than some nations on Earth. And so the Iron Heel, the story is dark, and I would advise you, I recommend you to read the story just like I recommend you to read Animal Farm. This one is a little bit longer, okay? Because in it, the revolution is crushed, and the oligarchy rules for centuries. But the very existence of the found manuscript tells us that the boot eventually lifts. Will it lift within our lifetime? I don't know. It's up to you. It's up to the masses. Are you willing to put in the work to make the boot lift off of society? Probably not. We're too accustomed to the wants and needs of our lifestyle, right? Most Americans love the freedom of turning on a faucet and there's water, and flipping on a switch and there's light, and all the customs that we are accustomed to, right? We're not going to put boots on the ground. We're not going to dethrone the government because we won't know what's behind that inevitable door, right? And so when we take a step back, the system is not eternal. We don't have to wait centuries. We don't. Like I said, it's up to you guys. The first act of resistance is actually seeing that much of the miseducation through things like the schools and the media and the institutions is designed this way. It's designed to make the heel feel natural, even comfortable, like you want it. You want the heel. You want the boots of oppression, because with them comes comfort. It comes with the everyday of knowing that I can turn that faucet on and I can flip that switch, and all of those nice things that I like are there. There's a price to pay for it, right? There is. And that cost goes up and up and up and up every year. And we know that through taxation, through rising prices. What we could buy 10 years ago won't even touch today, right? And so that's by design. So to make questioning it feel like extremism, like, oh, you're communist, or you're, what do they like to call, you're a Nazi, you're this, you're that, right? Because you're going against the system. They call you names by design, and that's how it's designed to work. And so this week, I want you to audit your own life. Which trusts shape your institution, your money, your opportunities, and your children's education? That's your first question. Who really benefits from the contracts that you never read? And there's a lot of them that you don't read. The platforms that you just can't leave, and the institutions that you are told to put your trust into. Think about all of those things, right? Really sit back and think about those. Because awareness is the crack in the iron, and curiosity, independent thought, and honest conversation where both sides can come to the table and we can have an adult, non-heated conversation are tools that can widen that crack. And so with that, I'm your host. This has been Breaking the System. Thanks for listening. If this hit the right spot, share it, talk about it, comment, break the echo chamber, right? Until next time, keep thinking about the boot. Keep questioning the boot, because it's always there. We'll see you later.
Yeah. It don't rot overnight, you know. It fades. Slow. Silent. Sweet. Like poison in the ink. Yeah, we build our walls out of words and pride. Now the cracks run deep where the truth once lied. Screens for temples, code for creed. We worship the lie that feeds our feet. Every echo shake, every thought rehearsed. History written in reverse. The prophets scroll, the prophets sell, and heaven's algorithms ring the bell.
Cold truth decays in the open air. Whispers drown in electric prayer. Life fades slow and we don't see.
The rock grows deep in our belief.